Hello everyone and welcome to episode 2 of Let's Play Manos, Hands of Fate. I got some of my trivia about the film wrong in the last episode. The director does play a character in the movie, but he does not play Torgo. He plays Michael, the main character, also the main character of this game. Torgo was played by a guy named John Reynolds, I want to say. And he had severe mental issues and suffered with depression. He would take his own life by gunshot a few weeks before this movie actually premiered. Also, the director of this film was at a party and was talking to someone who had directed films before, and he was saying that he bet it was easy to write and direct a horror movie. There we go, getting another Hand of Fate. And the guy kept telling him, dude, it's not as easy as you think. It's a lot more difficult than you think. Turns out he was right. Although the director, I think Harold P. Warren was his name, decided to go through with the film anyway. He bought himself a small handheld camera that was powered by a hand crank. And this hand crank, you would crank it to full power, and then it would have just enough juice to record for about 32 seconds of film. So every single shot in this film was recorded about 30 seconds at a time, and he had to splice it all together. And then the camera had no sound, so they would have to dub it later on, and that's what they did, kind of. There were 3 people that dubbed all of the voices in this, even though there were a lot more people in this film that acted than that. There was a part at the beginning of the film where it's just showing a car driving around, and that's really all there is to. Oh, this is based on a movie called The Giant Claw. And the Angry Video Game Nerd, James Rolfe, did a video on that either. So if you look up Cinemassacre Giant Claw, you'll be able to find that and watch that. But this was the big monster in it. Was this really ugly, gigantic bird that was one of the ugliest props I've ever seen in a film, honestly. I think he's going to kill me here, but I don't remember off the top of my head. Anyway. Or not. That's just embarrassing. Anyway, yeah, they shot the entire thing a little bit of time. And the way he got actors and crew was, it was all his friends. They didn't have proper... And he told them all that they would all get a certain percentage of the film's profits. And they all went along with this until they sat down and added up all the percentages and realized that it added to well over 100%. And they're like, wait a minute, this guy's bad at math. But they persevered because by that point they were all dedicated to the project, so they decided to go ahead and finish it anyway. And they did. And none of the cast or crew got to see the final product until the night that it was to debut. And they made a big deal out of this debut. He bought a searchlight, he bought a limo, he invited some dignitaries such as the mayor of the town to come out and watch this film when it's with its debut and things like that. And the moment that it started, they knew they were in trouble. There are precious few sound effects in this movie because the entire thing was shot on silent film. And they didn't put it in post. They didn't put sound effects in post-production. Save a few, like a gunshot sound. But for the most part, it's eerily quiet. And the overdubbing is poor. It's poorly acted. And the lip syncing is out of sync pretty much all the time. There will be moments... Okay. The master wants you. He loves beautiful women. But he can't have you. I want you. Don't ever try that again, you beast. What a horrible night to have a missing wife and daughter. Obvious reference to Castlevania there. Anyway, he could only afford one limo, so what he did was he had the entire cast and crew waiting around the corner, and this limo would drive around the block, pick up about 4, drive them to the front of the theater, and drop them off. Then it would drive around and pick up 4 more and drive around the front of the theater in an attempt to make it look like he had far more limos than he actually did. He tried to make a big deal out of this, and the cast and crew knew that they were in trouble pretty much as soon as the dialogue started, because it was very poorly dubbed. The voice acting was terrible, or the acting was terrible rather, and the lip syncing was off all over the place. There would be moments where characters' mouths would be moving and nothing would happen. There would be moments where the main character, Michael, would say, you could see him mouth the word cut, and they would leave that in the film, and things like that. It was just, you can tell that this guy had no idea what he was doing when it came to post-production, just like he had no idea what he was doing when it came to production. So it was problematic, and every single time a line of dialogue would pop up, people in the crowd would start snickering, and the deeper they got into this film, the worse the snickering got. And they were all really, really embarrassed that they had been a part of this. And apparently a bunch of the cast and crew actually snuck out of the theater during the filming. Quite frankly, I don't blame them for that. It would have been embarrassing. And the movie largely would have been forgotten about if it hadn't been for Mystery Science Theater doing an episode on it in '92, I think. It's one of the most famous episodes of the show, largely because there are very few movies quite like Manos. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but there are very few movies quite like it. There are very few movies that are just so incredibly inept. I mean, this is inept levels that Ed Wood couldn't reach. That's how far down the ladder this one goes. There's another Hand of Fate. This is the one that I am not entirely sure how to get. There, I'm trying, and I don't... That's the one I didn't get, so there it is. If you can figure out how to get it, best of luck to you. He was actually working on a sequel to it at one point. And I don't remember what the sequel was going to be called, but he was working on a sequel to Manos Hands of Fate. And he stopped production partway through filming, so they never finished it, although fans have gone on to work on sequel and prequel projects since then. So it's had a life after that, and it's kind of one of those movies like Troll 2 that just gets played at bad movie festivals and stuff like that. And it'll have special screenings and whatnot. And there was even a Kickstarter, I think this year, to restore the film and release it on Blu-ray that was successful. So there's a Blu-ray transfer, and this Blu-ray transfer looks infinitely better than any other version of it you've seen. That, like, what they did to this film to make it look as good as it does is just nothing short of incredible. It looks amazing. Still has all the other problems that the film has, and there are plenty of those, but it looks a lot better. So that's something, I suppose. They had lighting problems when they were filming this as well. Like, they didn't have proper lighting. If an actor went too far out of shot or too far back away from the camera, you couldn't see them at all because it was so pitch black. And many of the scenes were lit solely by headlights. Hey, oh, Peppy, who would do such a thing? Another boss right here. We're gonna get to another boss. So, yeah, the stories behind this film are honestly far more interesting than the film itself. The film is dreadfully boring and slow, despite only being 70 minutes long. But it's got a cult following now. Anyway, we're fighting the Master's dog here. This is an easy boss. As long as you can stay... It's not dead the way you know it. The Master is with us always. As long as you can... And now he awakens. As long as you can stay up above the dog, he can't really do much to you. Thank you, everybody, for watching this episode of Let's Play Manos, Hands of Fate. Please like, comment, and subscribe down below. It would be greatly appreciated. We will talk to you guys next time. Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.